What do you think of when you hear the words virtual reality? What is the first that comes to mind? Okay, it's probably not what you were thinking, but most people think of porn and video games. VR porn and VR games is also actually what most people search the internet when they receive a new VR headset, for example for Christmas. Every single Christmas. And while there is a big danger of internet addiction because of those two genres, virtual reality is much more than that. I believe that virtual reality will have a much more profound effect on our lives than most people can imagine today. And to get this out of the way, with virtual reality, or short VR, I also mean augmented and mixed reality. Although augmented and mixed reality headsets such as the rumored Apple glasses don't block out reality completely. There's a big myth that virtual reality is just another medium, but this is a big understatement. The unique thing about VR compared to any other medium is that it allows two things: presence and body switching. Presence means that with good VR you are there and part of the experience. Your perceptual systems interact with the virtual environment in similar ways with the physical environment. Body switching means that you can become another person, or even an animal or thing.
He's a god.
It goes beyond identification with the protagonist of a good story that you experience while watching a movie or reading a novel. In VR, you are the hero that saves lives in one story, or the psychopath that takes lives in another story. And you will experience both stories as if they were real. Because of that, VR is so powerful. And we all know that with great power comes great responsibility. Although it's not the focus of this video, I'm firmly convinced that virtual reality needs to be regulated much more strictly than any other medium before. VR has a huge impact on all aspects of our lives. From overcoming fears, to becoming more fit and healthy, to the development of spirituality. Therefore, I will use the 7 main chakras, the 7 energy centers of the human body from Hinduism, to illustrate where virtual reality innovations will have the strongest impact on our lives. Okay, first, mind-body training platforms. The root chakra stands for physical needs and safety. What most people don't know is that virtual reality is great for training. VR is already used to prepare people for extreme situations, for example in professional sports or survival training in an earthquake simulator. Mistakes are free in VR, but they feel real. Therefore, it's so great for training and learning. New platforms will evolve, bringing people who want to move their bodies and instructors together. On those platforms, you will find gamified and AI-enhanced experiences and courses for martial arts and mind-body exercises such as yoga, tai chi, dancing, fitness and much more. VR can physically alter the structures of your brain. The Swiss unicorn MindMaze is developing gamified VR solutions that help patients to recover from a stroke or other traumatic brain injuries. Second, interactive entertainment. The sacral chakra stands for creativity and sexuality. VR is the perfect tool to let your imagination and creativity run free. Since it is possible to slip into completely different roles, new platforms will be developed that go beyond video games and movies. Sooner or later, there will be platforms for AI-enhanced virtual theater groups to play all kinds of scenes, roles and stories. Each player will experience his or her own story from a unique perspective. Similar to Star Trek's holodeck, we will not only passively follow a story, like in a movie today, but we will shape it with our own creativity. It is also very likely that there will be casual dating platforms that will allow anonymous virtual encounters to live out sexuality freely. Third, exposure therapy apps. The solar plexus chakra stands for confidence and intuition. Virtual reality is a great tool for psychiatrists and already in use for psychological therapy today. For example, since the early 2000s, Joanne DeFede, a specialist in anxiety disorders at Cornell's Weill Medical College, uses virtual reality to help patients suffering from the 9/11 attacks and other traumatic events. In this VR therapy program, the patients had to experience the 9/11 attacks over and over again. By going through those traumas in a virtual setting, they have been able to learn how to deal with their anxiety much better than by any other form of exposure therapy. But VR can not only help post-traumatic patients, it can help anybody to become more confident and more grounded. People have all kinds of fears. Some have a fear of height, or a fear of flying in an airplane, or a fear of spiders, or a fear of talking to strangers or public speaking. VR is more powerful than pure visualization techniques and can provide people the missing stepping stone before they are confident enough to take action in the real world. Fourth, the personal transformation device. The heart chakra stands for empathy and self-compassion. In 2013, Stanford professor Jeremy Bailenson created the Cow Simulator, a VR experience to live the life of a cow. The experience, of course, is a shortened version of the 200 days until a cow is brought to the slaughterhouse. Participants had to wear a VR headset to see themselves walking around like a cow. Compared to others in a control condition, who just watched the cows walk around and got shocked, those who became a cow through VR gained more empathy for the misery of cattle. But VR is also a powerful tool to enhance self-compassion. Many people are often intensely self-critical and unable to give themselves the patience and understanding that they might grant to other people. Caroline Falconer at University College of London and Mel Slater at Barcelona's Institution of Research and Advanced Studies set up an unusual study to see if VR could increase self-compassion. The scenario that they studied worked like this. A depressive patient was placed in VR where they interacted compassionately with a virtual child. The words the patient spoke to the virtual child were recorded. The patient then re-entered the scenario, but this time as the child, hearing their own comforting words spoken back to them as if from another person. The study showed that changing one's point of view can have profound effects on the mental relationship with yourself. Fifth, avatar-based conferencing systems. The throat chakra stands for communication. Video conferencing already became the new normal in our business world. But as we all know, video conferencing has multiple drawbacks. It is not very efficient, since everything, also the background, is transferred, generating huge amounts of data. One of the biggest problems with virtual conferencing is latency. Latency is the amount of time the instant a frame is captured and the instant that frame is displayed. But a conversation lives from all the small, non-verbal and mostly unconscious movement in facial expressions and gestures. But with latency, the non-verbal communication is disturbed. Real-time avatar communication can solve this latency problem. Since much less data needs to travel from one device to another, there's almost no latency. In addition to this, eye contact and even virtual touch are possible. All these things that are missing in video conferencing and disturb the experience today can be added through virtual reality. Virtual meetups and even parties are already possible, such as in the virtual world Altspace VR. But also in the business world, VR meetings will become the new normal, either within a virtual world or facilitated by a robotic avatar in the real world. If those avatars would become the new standard, business trips, for example from Europe to Asia to visit a factory and talk to some coworkers, would become unnecessary. This is the reason why the Japanese airline ANA sponsored a 10 million X-Prize competition to develop real-life avatars that could potentially disrupt their business. Virtual meetings have the biggest potential to replace business travel and thus reduce CO2 emissions generated by transportation to a huge extent. 6. The education revolution. The third eye chakra stands for intuition and awareness. NASA astronaut Edgar Mitchell was enjoying a rare moment of uninterrupted reflection as he gazed out of the Apollo 14 command module on its way back to Earth. As Mitchell watched our planet, moon and sun float past the window, he was struck by a powerful feeling of connection with the universe. So many astronauts and pilots have been affected by this rare perspective that there is a name for this phenomenon, the overview effect. Many astronauts reported versions of this sensation, a sudden intense awareness of the fragility of the Earth. Maps, diagrams of human anatomy, or the Copernican model of the solar system all have profoundly changed how we see our place in this world. In VR, people can walk on the surface of Mars or swim through their own bloodstream or even be as small as an atom. Science can be experienced for the first time as if you would be the explorer. And all of that would be in an entertaining and formative fashion. This will create an educational revolution with an education system not only 100 times cheaper per student than today, but also more fun, similar to watching an Indiana Jones movie. And because it is visually appealing, interactive and therefore generates emotions, it will be more lasting and remembered much better than learning from a textbook. 7th, Enlightenment on demand. The crown chakra stands for spirituality. What most people don't expect is that VR will be a great tool to become more spiritual. It's quite likely that VR or AR headsets will merge with brain activity monitoring devices such as EEG devices. Those tools are already used to monitor brainwaves, much like a heart rate monitor senses your heartbeat. They help meditators at controlling their focus. A VR headset combined with EEG capability could help anybody to become more present in the moment. New apps and platforms similar to today's audio-based mindfulness apps such as Insight Timer, Calm or Headspace will be developed for VR and will have a much bigger impact on people's lives. Virtual reality is more powerful than any other medium that we have seen so far. What we see today with devices such as the Oculus Quest is cool and fun, but this is like playing Super Mario on a Super Nintendo in 1990. But 30 years later, computers are everywhere, even in our phones and in our watches. Science fiction writers and movie directors fantasized a lot about virtual reality in the 80s or 90s, when the technology was in its infancy.
This technology is going to change the world. This is the future. And you're afraid of it.
Yeah, well, it may be the future to you, Larry, but it's the same old shit to me.
But the technology is ripe now, and it's growing at an exponential rate. Policymakers need to understand that this technology is more powerful than anything that we have seen so far in consumer tech. It's important to avoid that those devices train a generation of internet-addicted psychopaths and violent criminals. But don't bury your head in the sand and hope that virtual reality will not come, because it will. It is already there, like the Super Nintendo was there in the early 90s in the child room. And it won't take 30 years this time to be everywhere. 10 years is much more likely. Please leave a like if you watched the whole video, and let me know in the comments if you think that virtual reality is just a gimmick, something nice to have like a smartwatch, or if you believe that it will change our lives profoundly. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I see you in the next video.